Damn these Biloxi blues, it happens every night.
Every night.
And I ain't never met a riverboat dealer that could ever be a friend of mine.
Nope.
The summer heat never treats me kind, it leaves trouble on my mind. So I'm bidding farewell, putting in my notice, and I'll see you at another time.
Sing.
This highway does not know my name, and I don't care.
No.
Oh, I don't care.
Not even kind of.
Headed my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare.
Right to the hook right here.
Just a white line gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas to get there.
Low budget live, not so live from the Low Budget Live Bar and Grill here in beautiful southern Middle Tennessee. And this is the podcast for Monday, September the 18th. You bunch of low lifers. And I hope you're all doing well out there. And if you're wondering why in the world, if this is the first time your eyes or your ears have stumbled upon the Low Budget Live podcast here, and you're wondering why I'm insulting you by calling you a low lifer, it's because it's what the listeners refer to themselves as, and I think it's pretty cool, man, because I'm a low lifer myself. The low life chose me a very long time ago. Screw college football. Quit DMing me about Florida, okay, beating Tennessee. I don't want to hear it. I'm a sore loser, all right? Man, I was so pumped about college football being back, and it took really – they played like crap against Austin Peay, but then it took one night in Gainesville, Florida, for me to just wish that it was over with again already. Gosh, if you're wondering why I sound like more like a weed eater that's kind of cutting in and out more than normal, it's because I screamed, at the TV for many, many, many hours this past weekend. So, man, can't win them all, guys. I don't know, man. I wish that I was built mentally to not care about sports like I do, especially the teams that I've always loved and pulled for my entire life. But I'm not that guy. I love it. I get too emotionally invested, and I also get crushed whenever things go bad. And shout out to the boys for going down there in Florida and playing hard. But the Florida Gators, man, you guys showed up and showed out. It's always sucks to get beat by Florida, and it happens too much when you're a Tennessee Vol fan in the last 20 freaking years. But their coach needed that win, man. His head's kind of on the chopping block. Sounds like, if you read into all the media drama. But yeah, it's good. It's good having football back, I guess. It's going to be a long year, I'm afraid. Not a Joe Milton guy. Our quarterback, not all his fault by any stretch of the imagination, but we just really missing Hendon Hooker. And I'm looking forward to this kid they've got, not to just go all Tennessee football on you, this Nico, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, that's waiting in the wings to be the next starter for Tennessee. And I'm excited to see what the future brings with that kid as well. I'm not writing this season off because I think we've got some big wins in us, hopefully, but damn sure didn't happen this weekend. I hope all of your college football teams, if you care, like a lot of people do, hope all your college football teams are winning. And if not, just turn on the Colorado game. That's what the rest of the world's doing. They storm the field when they beat unranked teams, guys. Actually, I'm not hating on Coach Prime. I have enjoyed the drama, the freaking energy, everything around this, and I find myself watching Colorado games like so many people are. It's just insane what the guy has done. It's been wild to see. They've got some tests coming up though. Oregon, USC. We'll see how they fare with that, but just bananas, man. You got College Game Day, you got Fox's football show out there, you got Barstool's been out there, you got the freaking Rock, you got all these celebrities, rappers following Colorado football. They won one game last year. Love it or hate it, it's pretty damn impressive to see, man. Pretty impressive to see. All right, I want to thank some sponsors. Then we're going to get into this thing right now. StarTron, kicking ethanol in the teeth. It is an enzyme-powered fuel treatment. This time of year, you're starting to slow down. You're not on the water as much. You out there in the woods trying to kill a deer. A lot of y'all are. When you put the boat in the shop for longer than 2 weeks, you better drop you some StarTron in the tank. A little dab will do you, and keep kicking ethanol in the teeth. And make sure the next time you go to hit that key, that bad boy fires up. StarTron, kicking ethanol in the teeth and bringing you LBL. Pro Guide Batteries, ProGuideBatteries.com is where you can find them. They're also at a lot of dealers. And they also come factory equipment on so many bass boat manufacturers out there from the OEM level. But ProGuideBatteries.com is where you can use code LBL10 to buy some of the best lithium batteries in the game. Get yourself a discount and let them know you are a low lifer. ProGuideBatteries.com. Baitworks.com, bait-wrx.com, Duncan-10, Dunkin-10 saves you money at Baitworks. You can get the LOB power finesse jigs there. Again, had me some bites on that joker in the last couple days. It's time. It was good seeing that Bassmaster Open on Watts Bar. Watched some of that coverage on FS1 and a lot of jig fishing going on. It's time. It's time. You better get you some LOB jigs. This honestly, this time of year was really what this jig was built for me. I love this early fall transition time. They do bite a finesse jig, and that's where this jig shines. It's got LBL on the logo, 7 amazing colors. Go check it out and check out all the other stuff. Maybe you're into some glide bait action. Maybe you're into some topwater action, some square billing. This time of year it goes down, and Bait-Works has everything you need. And last but not least, hang the imaginary banner. It's not behind us anymore, guys. Not in the least. Express Boats, the Bassmaster Classic winning high-performance, all-welded aluminum bass boat, 96-inch beam. I was at the boat ramp this past Friday putting in. This fella pulls up next to me in a Bumblebee boat, and he says, "How heavy is that thing?" I get asked all kind of questions. "How heavy is that thing?" I said, "In what way?" He's like, "Does it run? Does it, how, does it move in the wind? How fast is it? Blah, 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 blah." Got all of these, you hear the lawnmower behind me right now. My kids are mowing, and I don't know if you can hear it. Let's see. Oh yeah, definitely you can hear on Low Budget Live. But my kids are doing work, so that's all that matters, right? That's all that matters. But anyways, lots of questions about the Express, but it is a very stable fishing platform that does not get blown around in the wind. It takes rough water, fantastic. A fraction of the price for a 21-foot fiberglass boat. 250 Yamaha shell on the back. Y'all know the drill. Amazing hole shot. Amazing storage. C-deck, bow to stern. I cannot wait. And mine is for sale. My X21. So hit me up if you're serious. Send me a DM or shoot me an email, lowbudgetlive, the number 1 at gmail.com. Express Boats, building excitement since 1966. All right. You can hear the mower in the background. This had to be where the kids are mowing right now. It is what it is. I apologize. I have the noise canceling microphone, but I know you can hear it. It is what it is. It's low budget. It is absolutely low budget. All right. So on today's show, we're going to talk to a guy, and this is a guy I had in studio last week. Listen to me. The mowers got me all jacked up. This is a guy I had in studio last year. He's a dear friend of mine. I've known him for several years now, and I love giving him a hard time. And he loves to reciprocate that. He's 10 years younger than me, and like a little brother at times for sure. It's crazy to see him grow up in this industry like he has. He is one of the hosts on the Bassmaster television show, Bassmaster Live. He handles the Fox Sports live coverage for the Opens. He has worked at Bass for 10 years now in all sorts of things. He absolutely is obsessed with bass fishing, covering bass fishing, talking about bass fishing. This last couple of years, he has been saltwater Ron, working the sport fishing championships. It's been very cool, though, to see his growth in that TV world. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get him on right now from Arkansas, Ronnie, saltwater Ron, smallmouth Ron Moore. All right, as promised, here he is, one of the voices and faces of the Bassmaster television show, live broadcast, everything Bassmaster. I feel like I introed you as a guy that the hardest work in the room, working your dream job, and I'd say that's fair. Ronnie Moore, thanks for coming on LBL.
I appreciate it, Luke. I enjoyed the first one we did, even with the technical difficulties, and I even had to stall this from when we're recording it and give me 5 minutes. I can wiggle some wires and make it work as well. So you're not the only one who's low budget. You just might do it better than everybody else.
I think that I definitely wear the crown of doing low budget better than everybody else, I think. But I get tired of it though, man, because there's always, when you live the low budget life, there are always problems and technical difficulties at times. That's what you text me. You said, dude, my camera wire. I was like, hey, leave the low budget stuff for me, bud. Mr. Bassmaster Studio in Little Rock.
Exactly. No, it's the same thing I just talked about in an Instagram story the other day with the anglers. I always want fan input on what content they want to see, what content should I make. Just do it. No matter how janky it looks, how low budget you are, if you're video and stuff on a cell phone to put on, just do it, and then you'll know what you want to do. Don't wait till you get a bunch of good ideas. Just do the bad ones, and then you'll realize what are good ideas. So I'm glad on the podcast. I'm glad that my pseudo studio here in the house on a Sunday afternoon is working.
Well, you know, I saw that post and it really, I appreciated it. You know, I messaged you on that post because I think so many times now, and whether you're an angler, whether you're a musician, whether, you know, all the things that I like to keep up with, an athlete, whatever, I think social media was kind of born, in my opinion, and we've talked about this a lot on here with guests recently. It was born from like, hey, show me kind of behind the curtain. Show me who you are. Show me the real you. And the people that excel at social media, I feel like, do that well, whether that be a Gerald Swindle in the fishing world, or I think even a guy like The Rock, right, who's obviously globally famous for so many different reasons. But I do feel like he kind of gives you an insight. Hey, I'm working out. Hey, I'm bass fishing. Hey, I'm filming a movie this week. But I think that's what social media for me is about. And then it turned into a sales tool for a lot of companies and still is. And I get that. But I think that sometimes anglers really, they just lose sight of, man, we've got a lot of great personalities in this industry and you need to let that shine. Just be yourself.
100%. And I think when you be yourself, you become happier. And that's what it was never that, you know, Instagram story wasn't rooted in like negativity of like, don't listen to the fans, they're the worst people in the world. Hey, dumb anglers and your indecisiveness. No, it was literally when you do something that you enjoy, it's easy to replicate. If this podcast was something that you begrudgingly did because someone behind the scenes said, Luke, you have to do 100 podcasts a year, it makes it harder to continue to do it out of desire. But when you do something, that's why I tell Bass this. I will tell salespeople at Bass, I say, hey, let's just figure out content to make and then pitch it to companies to sponsor it. Because if we're okay doing it and doing this content with 0 people paying us, then when people pay us, we're already doing it. It's already good. It's for the anglers, or it's for this, it's for that. But when you create an idea with a paycheck loop to it or something, well, my fans will only like me if I do this content. Well, then that's going to go by the wayside when you're really not feeling 100% to do it. So that was what it was rooted in. Do what you love. And that's why, honestly, it's weird from 2020 on, nobody, you know, the world has never fished as much as it has from 2020 on. Yet I've never fished less than I have, because I realized, why am I just going fishing to try to catch a 5-pounder so I can show it off for Instagram, when I'd rather be home with my wife through what we're going through? Or now that a 1.5-year-old as last week, like, I want to be home with her, or I want to be at church. And that's the Ronnie Moore. And I struggle with that for a little bit. You know, we ballooned up to 25,000 followers on Instagram in a year and a half. And that was like, heck, I'm gonna keep doing it. And I really didn't love it And so then I just became myself, and I've grown 1,000 over the last 3 or 4 years. So, and I'm happier than I was growing. So do what makes you happy. And so I'm glad that you're doing the podcast, glad that the anglers just do what they do. And that's what we try to do with, I use YouTube as an experimental tool with bass, all the stuff we create and put there. The fans will tell us what it likes, whether they comment it or not, but just based on the viewership. This works on this platform. Our viewers watch this. This is the feedback we got. And these are the haters that pop up no matter what we do. So,
I love that so much. But it is true, dude. You can't make
I see the accounts. I know the accounts are going to say something bad.
Oh, dude, I've got names over the years of doing this that when it pops up, you're like, oh boy. The second I know where it's headed, right? Immediately. But dude, I love that you say, like when you guys are creating a segment for bass, whether it be for the website or something for live without a sponsor in mind, that is how this started. I get a lot of grief now over advertising for my sponsors through the show at times, but this show didn't have a sponsor when it started. And I'm grateful for the opportunity that the lowlifers have created to be able to have this show, have official sponsors. It's very cool for me, but it was never made with that in mind. It certainly has turned into a lot of different things for a lot of different people, I feel like, over the last 6 years. But I love that, man. And I think that's such a good, like, if you want to film yourself going fishing, do it because you like to film yourself going fishing, and editing that makes you happy. For me, it doesn't necessarily. Like I really hate editing video of fishing trips, and I hate dragging out all the batteries and the GoPros and all that stuff. I used to enjoy it way more than I do now. Sometimes I just like to go though and turn everything off, the phone, like all of them, just go bass fishing. That's why I fell in love with this in the first place, is just being on the water. And I feel like this year I've done more of that than ever before, this summer in particular, and just kind of like getting back to square one, man. I think that's important. So I love going back to that. I love that approach because I think so many people, and I know you'll agree with this, especially like in this Gary V world we live in, I feel like, which I was going to say, I'm a Gary V fan, but I'm saying there are so many people that just go, well, I'm just going to do this to make money, right? Like they don't have necessarily any passion for it. It's just, I'm just going to get online and do this because I think it will catch fire, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, 100%. He's even been one who's a hustler, work your brains out. If you work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, you're still not working hard enough. But then he's also the guy who's like, there are people who hate the promotion they got. They work so hard to get a promotion, and then they hate that it now keeps them away from their family an extra day. They would make 60,000 and be happier than if they made 85,000, but they miss more things because they have to now earn that paycheck by working long hours, more important meetings. Being sometimes being the little man is not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, like just for instance, Tackle Tip Tuesday, that derived out of 2018 split when the anglers left and went to MLF. One of the things that hurt my heart was, we're not getting enough media exposure and enough videos and enough things for us. And so I literally, people think we just cried. There was a little bit of that for me, just being a 21 or 22-year-old, whatever I was. But I was like, well, how do I, as a media person that's getting all of this feedback, the public, and kind of not me, they weren't ever probably dragging me in reality, but they were just saying we need to do more media. Well, all I do is wake up and do media. I need to figure out a way to help our anglers. So Tackle Tip Tuesday derived out of every Tuesday we're going to have a different angler on, getting a tip about that time of the year or what their specialty is, and try to make it pertinent. If someone is fishing that week, they could catch a bass based off what they heard. And so I started doing that. And then when like Mercury currently sponsors it, and when they're asking if this is something that they could sponsor, I told them directly, not Mercury directly, but our sales, I said, there will be Yamaha, Suzuki, Mercury anglers in these videos. I'm not going to just make it Mercury angler. Like, we're doing this for the anglers, not just for certain angler. And so every year we get 50 plus anglers represented. And now we're doing it, with the 10 Bassmaster with the Classic and the Elites, that if you win one, you get a winning Tackle Tip Tuesday. So you might get 2 Tackle Tip Tuesdays in a year, or like Joey Cifuentes, you might get 12 Tackle Tip Tuesdays in a year. So it arrived out of that. We needed to do something for our anglers, and that's what we did. So that's,
you got to do a cowboy hat series with Joey or something, just different hats for different days at this point. He's getting too many Tackle Tip Tuesdays. He texted me the other night and he was like asking me about guitars. He's bought a new guitar and he says, man, you got to see this guitar. And then he just invited himself to my house in a text thread, which I'm here for. But he goes, hey, I want to come to the bar and grill and hang out and play music. And I said, well, come on, Joe. And then he said, but by the way, Gwen and I also need a babysitter. And I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I'll have to line that up too. But that was a conversation with Cowboy Joe the other night. And we're going to try to get him to the bar and grill very soon. But no, man, you guys, I will say this, Bass is the social media presence you guys have. It's monstrous. And you know, you work very hard at it. And I love going back just like the top 10 photo galleries, the bait galleries. Always love swiping through those. But the Tackle Tip Tuesday stuff's fantastic as well. But I do have a bone to pick with you with alliteration. Okay. Tackle Tip Tuesday, I feel like I
saw that on social media. I didn't create that. I saw someone post one infrequently and said, hey, that's perfect. It could be like, you know, Tech Tip Thursday, Tackle Tip Tuesday, but I was like, you know, like Wrong Fish Wednesday, it's a Fat Todd deal, you know?
Fat Todd. Listen, and I'm an alliteration junkie. It's weird, like in songwriting and like what makes my ears perk up. But we've got to stop with the Tackle Tip Tuesday. Alex Davis does it.
Hey, Tuesday. Yeah. Williams wills his way to watch bar win. We could do yesterday for the Open or whatever. Or we could, according to our fans, we could do stupid Saturday stuttering kid whenever I host live. That's normally what it is, you know, whatever that there's a couple of my buddies who comment those things.
Stupid,
but you know,
good Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. No, so yeah, the alliteration is
it's running wild.
There's a time that I'm a fan. There's a time I'm a fan of it, and then there's a time where I'm like, man, we dug in the thesaurus for that one. We had to find that adjective for, you know, to go in there or whatever.
Well, I of course I'm joking when I say that. I like to see people trying things on their social media and trying to be active and stay up with things. But we do have a lot of alliteration in the fishing world. That is for sure. So you're to blame for that, then, Ron. That's good, buddy.
Friday's forward-facing tip of the week. That'll be the next podcast. I can't do it right now.
No, we're not. Listen, buddy, I am so sick of those three letters. I've never been FFS. I'm so sick of that these days.
Hey, and we've built our life on Bass Live of being vague about baits and techniques, and I've never wanted to be more specific about ones in my life. Get away from the vague. Vague, that covers the whole genre of it, but like, hey, it's a certain kind that's really dominating, or it's a few kinds that are dominating. Just, you know, can we say it without? Do I lose my job? Like I have to ask these fine print questions during the commercial.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I think that's maybe why fans are frustrated is there's a lot to learn from it. And you're like me with, you guys see everything that's going on, like the Wizard of Oz. It's always my joke with Fat Cat. You see all the cameras other than what you're commentating on program, right? Like you've got an idea what's going on out there. And so you guys watch hours and hours and hours of this over these pros' shoulders. And there's a lot to be learned that I think, and I've said this on here many times, of course, but that I think people are missing. Even when a guy's staring at his graph and not talking, there's a lot of things if you just watch that they may not be pointing out because they're sneaky, aka Patrick Walters. But there are things to be learned. That's fair to say?
100%. I mean, I don't even like forward facing sonar. Like I don't go fishing regularly anymore, just time wise. The only time free is August and December. Those are the best fishing months in Arkansas, as everybody knows. It's absolutely terrible to go. So I'm like, you know, if I fish consistently again, would I get one? Probably, but that's not my style anyway. So I don't desire to watch that. So when people are like, oh, it's so boring to watch, dude, don't even open your mouth about that. I watch every minute of it and I have to make it fun. Like I literally, no one's thinking about, well, at least they're paying me to watch this. No, I'm like, oh my God, all 10 are using it. Hopefully with some cool visuals. And some of our guys on the camera wise, and we've toyed around with some tech to show the screen on there. And there's some just like on the water, when you see the guys catching them and you don't see all the idle time, or there's things to learn, like you said, there's a lot of things at Bass and Bassmaster Live that we want to do that we're not allowed to, or that we can't quite do yet. And we're trying to figure it out. And people are like, Bass should do this. We are on the same page. I promise you, we are doing our best. And it is hard when you see that and you have to like try to explain to the fans without giving away the whole playbook of why we ran a jet sweep this play and then we ran slants the next play, when they don't understand that we saw cover 2 and or an NJ all out blitz, and you don't see that. And so there is a ton to be learned for a style of fishing I don't necessarily would cater to. It's absolutely a crazy tool. I remember, it's crazy that 2023 and we're freaking out about live sonar when I was
going to 28 times when this thing came into our lives,
Well, think about this. I didn't get Facebook till I was a senior in high school. And so it's only been like a decade or 11 years since I was in high school, whatever it is. I was using Panoptics, buddy Trent Palmer's boat at Lake Hartwell in the fall of 2016, and we won a tournament with 10 pounds, a Clemson college fundraiser. We used it. He is on a conference call in the back of the boat during practice. I'm like, that's a big brush pile. I pitch my drop shot over to it on Panoptics OG Gen 1, and it wasn't a big brush pile. It was a skinny little scrawny tree with 100 bass in it, and they all swam up to my bait, and I was like, it's not even gonna hit the bottom. And I clicked my bail and I set the hook and catch one, and I was like, that was crazy. And so 2016 was when the first jig that I have ever seen her use. Because I've only got to fish. I think I fished with the fall with Trent in 2016, and then the winter of 2017 or 2018, right before the year Elite in 19. So yeah, somewhere around there. So it was very, very new years ago. But it's just, and we can I probably, this isn't what the podcast is about. It's just chit chatting, but I understand fans' frustrations with it. We had so many events this year where 2 or 3 guys at the top 10 were utilizing it. Maybe a fish was used on it to win the event, but it wasn't dominated until we hit a long 2-month break from the Sabine to St. Clair. We have an event, the entire top 10 is using it. Then we have the entire top 10 of the next 2 were both using it as well. So our recency bias is we had the last 3 top 10s all using it. But prior, we didn't have 30 total anglers in the other 7 tournaments of our season that were religiously using it. And so, Luke Palmer, Sam Cooper utilized it big time. Drew Benton, maybe he used 1 or 2 active target catches, but he was bed fishing and shad spawn or herring spawn, or either both. And you just see a Tyler Rivette who did well on Murph with it, or a Kiyoyu Fujita who did work on it. And then Joey wins Seminole and Rivette wins Okeechobee. But everyone else in those top 10s weren't avidly using it. Yes, it won the event, but we didn't feel overwhelmed and consumed with it. It was just, wow, they're looking at these OG bodies of water in a different light. I was more shocked that we had one guy winning the event at Seminole doing what he was doing, because if it was a college tournament, there'd be 900 boats in the mouth of Spring Creek. That's what I was more shocked there was only one doing it. And then I think Pat Schlapper was using a jerk bait and seeing fish doing it. But other than that, I mean, there wasn't too tremendously. Jay Shakir at Lay Lake catching spotted bass doing it. Like there's little bits and pieces, but it's not overwhelming. So I get it. I have to watch it as well. I was pleasantly surprised at Watts Bar and 5 guys fishing bank beaten. And 5 guys doing it. It was a good mixture. And so I think one remedy is we fish in the fall. I texted Lisa Talmadge, fish in the fall. I texted her that and said, we're seeing diversity today in what we're seeing on little old Watts Bar, which I love that place. And it's just September's tough. But in that monologue, like, I get it. There's ways to probably counteract it. And so hopefully we get to that. But we can't obviously adjust our schedule from the final day of the St. Lawrence to 1 week later when the debates come about it, and we can just avoid a Smith. Like, you can't, we can't recreate the wheel in a week when we've been planning a schedule all year. So
yeah,
maybe in the future.
I love when the schedule dropped and some of the comments are like, well, this is just caters to social media. And then some of them said, well, this is not catering to social media. And it's like, listen, the schedule's been worked on for a year. Schedules are longer. Schedules are very hard. It's the hardest part of this whole game. I talked about this last week, being involved with MPFL. Like, I mean, the scheduling is ridiculous. Like it's a huge burden at times, and trying to work with cities and just make the schedule make sense for all the anglers. And it's a challenge. And so I think the schedule was already put to bed before, like you said, this recency bias that you have. That's a great way to put it, because it is, man. I think back on the moments from the year where there's Christie's Giant down at Lake, Christie frog fishing this deep down there. Incredible. I think about the Steve Kennedy at Okeechobee and all these just crazy frog blow-ups, and Brandon Cobb in there catching big ones. And dude, Rivette, when he was absolutely beating the brakes off of them in the river, it was awesome footage too, dude. It was incredible. Like, now it wasn't 10 guys, like you're saying, you had a reprieve from it, but at Seminole, with Joey, you're so right. Kotaro Kiriyama almost won an elite doing that same thing years and years ago, man. Like with 2D, those fish get caught out there in those trees, and Joey just happened to mine it to perfection to win his first of 2 trophies of the year. But yeah, I think people they certainly they love to forget, and I think to say that you guys, MLF, MPFL, aren't having open conversations, and haven't been for a while, on how do we make this more entertaining for the fans? Because like you said, dude, I watch it for 7 hours straight, and I'm like, come on. I mean, I get it.
And then I have to go weigh in when I've already been prognosticating about Bass Track, and I have to watch it just to make sure what I saw all day came true, or to hear what they said at the weigh-in stage. And so, yeah, it's a whole big deal. But no, I think that I've never once been in a meeting with Bass. Not that I'm in many meetings, because I'm the redheaded stepchild of the, because I'm everyone's nephew at work. But they're like, yeah, let's find a way to not listen to our fans or anglers in this meeting. And I'm like, I've never heard that. I've never once heard them go into like a payout, meeting or a live meeting and say, like, how do we sneakily pull the drapes over their eyes? Like I've never done that. I've never seen that. And so it hurts my heart, with social media, when people say those things without any kind of understanding. Especially, I loved it. I really actually abstained. You'd be impressed. I abstained from commenting on
That's rare for
99%. And I've done it the last year. The Lord has taken the desire away from me to comments. So I've stopped commenting, and then did comment on a buddy's thing. He was like, yeah, the views aren't doing too great. I just saw them. And I'm like, I haven't even seen the views. What are you talking about, buddy? Like, show me the numbers, because my boss has no reason to lie to me about it. And I haven't even heard him from Fox yet. What are you talking about? So I said, show me the numbers. It's okay. This is a private conversation on Facebook. Show me the numbers then.
Yeah, I love that so much. Though, well, the ratings are down. Do you know the ratings? How do you get the ratings, Facebook guy? How do you get them? I see that all the time about MPFL. Nobody's watching. I'm like, well, dude, do you have the numbers? Or are you seeing it? Because I do get to see it, and it's not nobody.
And I do love it when they're like, I will never watch a tournament with forward-facing sonar, blah, blah, blah. How do you know we're forward-facing sonar it up unless you've watched it this morning? Yes, you may not watch it for 8 hours. You may watch it for an hour, but like, you watched it to know if it was going on, and then close your laptop and walk away. Or I don't even know if these folks have laptops, if it's just a desktop or if it's just a BlackBerry.
They're throwing stuff at their TV on FS1, man.
Yeah, I know. And so it's quite a bit going on behind the scenes trying.
Do you think though, because I feel this way, and I forget, maybe it was Austin Felix last week that I had on. We were talking about, for me on live, like with you guys at St. Lawrence in particular, smallmouth events can be boring. They
always have been. Every single one of them have always been. Right.
But I feel like the fish catch ratio for live has gone up through the freaking roof. Okay.
More action,
Nonstop. Yeah. And so as a viewer, I'm like, well, yeah, I don't like necessarily to watch the guy stare at the screen, but my gosh, he's scooping a 5 pound. There's somebody scooping a 5 pound smallmouth constantly, I feel like, throughout the broadcast. Like, that's incredible to me.
Yeah. The only smallmouth tournaments, if I had to think really quickly off the top of my head, that were absolutely fun to watch that didn't may involve forward facing. So KVD's spy bait win at the St. Lawrence. You got Seth's crankbait win at St. Clair. And other than that, it's the same stuff, except back in the day, we were just less efficient with 2D. And so we're only making these weights go up in the tournaments. We're only bringing more and more action. Man, we used to think about, what about the lull in the day? There are times where we're trying to hit every catch in the first 4 hours of the show. And we're like, it's a 4-pounder. We can't show that one. Like, it's not even going to make the cut because we got so many big ones coming in. So it's absolutely crazy. You know, as a kid who grew up with topo maps, and I used to use the maps app on my way college fishing. I got a top 10 at Lake Norman, running down the lake, waiting to see my pin on the lake, you know, the pocket where I had it marked. We're getting close to our spot. It's in the fog, and I don't have a GPS on my boat. I got black graphs. That's how I got to spots. So like, I know that it's progressed, and I'm super excited to see where it's at. But and me and Austin have talked about this. But like, the only thing I could see is I don't want it to go away. But like, if they asked me, if Bass said, "Hey, this is weird, wacky, wild Wednesday," for all the alliteration fans, we're going to get Ronnie's 2 cents on this, I would say, don't take it away. But if we limited it in terms of still feasible for fans can get 1 unit and 1 transducer for the front. They not have 3 on the transom in the back, or 1 out the side of their console at the driver's seat. Like limit the number of arms on the A-rig, or the number of blades, or the number of hooks. Don't maybe make it go all the way away, because it is a useful tool. It has taught us quite a bit. I think even in that frog fish catch from Fest at Okeechobee for Steve Kennedy, he put it on perspective mode in 1.5 foot of water with grass all around, and we saw a 2-pounder swimming by, and he pitched over there and caught it. Like, how cool is that? Can it get monotonous? For sure. Can we have a 4-box with everyone going down the bank fishing my favorite way, flipping on a frog, and you think they're going to catch one and they don't? It's the same thing as looking at 4 forward facing, where they're dropping it on a fish and they're not biting, and you're like, oh my God, bite it. Like, it's the same type of thing. It's just the generation that may be complaining about it, the generation that feels like the ways they learn to fish are going away. I relate to that 100%. And so I understand. But do we set our tournaments back and we all run 17-foot boats with 100s and topo maps on lakes we've never been to and there's no practice? Do we have a 10-pound tackle rule? Like, how much do you want to sacrifice? I've always hated the term grow the sport. How much do we want to sacrifice growth of the sport to have the sport look like the way we want it to look? Do we guys get blown up in the NFL with the hits across the middle? Heck yeah, that's awesome. Do we also know people die from that? Heck yeah, we don't want people dying either. So we have to find a way to advance the sport, grow it, stay on national TV, and also hear the concerns from both ends and fans. I get it. I empathize with both sides. I see both sides. I do not agree with both sides, but there's got to be somewhere in the middle that entertains both trains of thought. And I'm okay with to go to Ross Barnett every event. That's cool.
Well, I think too that something's got to go into consideration is it's big time that you guys are live, whether it was on ESPN or FS1 now. That's big for the sport. And I think that what people don't realize is if you were to gather a lot of folks in a room, right, and they don't know what forward-facing sonar is, they don't know who Justin Atkins is on the front deck of the boat. They're just clicking through and they land there. They want to see some kind of action. I would say they want to see some act. They don't know. And you hope, in my opinion, this is what the hope is of having this on FS1. The hope is to grow that audience, right? That tunes into Bassmaster. Maybe they pick a favorite guy. I'll use me for example. Earlier this year, I got to go to, and this is a lot different thing, but it's a sport that I'm not familiar with. I went to the IndyCar race in Nashville. I've never kept up with that in my life. And I went, and my boys and I went, and I'm like, this is really freaking cool. And I grew up, my grandfather loved NASCAR and things, but never been really just religious about it by any stretch of the imagination. Don't kind of loosely know what's going on, but I've started following some of the racers that we saw that day on social and kind of keeping up with it, but just casually. And for me, it's like you can always expand that viewership. All you got to do is have action, have a cool storyline, which you guys are great at setting up, I feel like. And when somebody stops, if somebody's battling a 5-pound smallmouth and 5-foot waves coming over the nose of the boat, and it's insane, that might make them go, oh my gosh, what is going on right here? And stop. So the more fish catches, the better for that situation.
100%. I mean, like the pit road fights for the people who like NASCAR, but don't, that's the ugly side of the sport. Like, oh, come on, let's be gentlemen. Race your cars at 200 miles an hour, but do we have to push each other? And one's got a helmet on, one doesn't. That's tacky. Meanwhile, people who are just tuning into Instagram are like, in the news, like, I don't even know these guys, but someone needs to get bloody right now. His sins need to be reconciled. Let's beat him up, like whatever.
Yeah,
the Davey Allison's on the back stretch, and Dale Earnhardt. I watched it the other day. I watched it live when I was a kid. Final Bristol, Terry Labonte passes Dale Earnhardt entering the last lap. Dale does the up on the track, comes down, and does he bump Terry and spin him out? Heck yes, he does. Is there a huge smoke and a crash? Does everyone hate Dale Earnhardt for it? Yes, that's who he is. So it's a weird thing. I'll say this: when we had 45-minute TV shows, you may have missed out on the monotony of 2D sonar with smallmouth tournaments. We showed you the best highlights of it.
Yes,
if you watch, I can make Luke Duncan sit down and watch the Kardashians for 45 minutes. And this is crazy. I don't know if I could spend all day with them. Then now the Kardashian show turns into a 7-hour live show. You're going to get fed up pretty quick. It's the same thing with bass fishing. We had 45-minute snippets. Here's the best of the best, curated and made for your desire. Now you have to watch 7 straight hours of unfiltered decision-making and camera swaps and catches. What you see may get old. You may have watched Bassmaster shows for 20 years at 45 minutes a pop, and that's your childhood. That's what you love. And now you can't get to a whole season of 7 hours every single day live because think about it. We were live like 350 hours or 325 hours this year. That we were live, or we had 10 hours of TV programming every year with ESPN. That's 32 years of Bassmaster programming we do a year now. And so, of course, things get old, monotonous. We are literally seeing more than we've ever seen. It's desensitizing towards things. Yeah. So I watched the Kardashians for 45 minutes, but God, I don't want to watch them for 7 hours, 4 days straight. No,
hang on a second. We're not skipping over that. And and if your lovely bride has you watching that, then that's fine, because the triple threat had me watch 90 Day Fiance before. Okay, I've been down the trash TV rabbit hole. The Kardashians, though, I can't watch for 45 minutes. I can't watch for 4 minutes. Now, if Kim wants to go fishing, then that's that, right? Like, I'm not here to judge. If she wants to go fishing with me, I'll ask Marissa to get permission. Okay.
Hey, when my favorite, when I'm in high school, or I'm a freshman in college and I've got a TV big, on my dresser, because it was the newest one. It had a VHS. You slid into the face of the TV, like back when Nickelodeon wasn't playing, or the gears on got staticky. You had to find something. So I was trying to be. I'm gonna go watch MTV or VH1 because that's the new,
edgy,
so,
right? Yeah.
But yeah, you see the Kim Kardashians or the Jersey Shores. Hey, when I hung out with my mom on Saturday morning, I didn't get my way. I didn't get to watch whatever I wanted to. I watched Young and the Restless for an hour. and then he'd let me watch college football or whatever, or the NASCAR race. So I've watched it all. That's why whenever I act like I know it all, I have seen a whole bunch of crap in 30 years. I promise you. What stuff I didn't want to see and stuff that I just am aware exists.
I love that. You're just programmed, man. You just got that between your ears. I think that's important in life, though. And a lot of people watching this will go, "What? You had to watch soap operas?" I can remember watching soap operas with my mom. So
I see a commercial, and I still see them. The same people when I was 10 are doing it when I'm 30, and I'm like, she's no longer the hottest girl in town that they've been talking about. I promise. Like, there's some. They've had bad spawns. They've lost generations of people in this town. That's the only one we still talk about.
How many times has she been killed off and Brian resurrected, though? That's the thing, because in them soap operas, dude, they will murder you quick. And then they're like, she just walked back in here. She's a ghost. No, I survived the car crash when they cut my brakes.
Yeah. The Dark Knight returns again after his initial return. Yes, he's back. He's back.
I had a babysitter when I was like 10 years old that watched Days of Our Lives. Like, dude, she was like, me and my little brother, because we were terrible children, and she would be just like, shut up, it's time for Days of Our Lives. We'd be like trying to talk to my mom about it. Like, she's kind of like mean, like, I don't know, she wants to watch her shows, you know. My mom's like, I like Days of Our Lives too, leave her alone. All right.
Hey, I'm an OGer. I know that Young and the Restless is better than Days of Our Lives, and that The Office is better than Parks and Rec. That's where the similarities are there, and you got to pick a side. I'm a Young and the Restless, not a Days of Our Lives, not at all.
I am okay. I'm an Office over Parks and Rec too. We can agree on that.
Thank you.
I love Parks and Rec. I love Parks and Rec. Don't get me wrong. It's fun.
I do reference Ron Swanson religiously. Yeah. The one quote worth doing it, where I've always learned it's better to whole butt one than to half butt two things. So that's one thing I always say to myself. Make sure you're not stretching yourself thin. It's better to do one thing 100% than two things 50.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's great.
Where are we? What are we talking? See before
it's live, dude. Like, we don't have to, we can just have a conversation. That's what I love about it. It's not an interview. It's just a combo, buddy. I love it. Yeah, I do got to get you back into the bar and grill here for another non-technical issue. Hopefully LBL we can do in person now with my new little setup here. But listen, we can talk about The Office all day. My wife told me the other day that she read a study that there's something mentally off with you if you watch the same thing every day.
Oh, dude.
And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah. She goes, how many times can you watch? I watch it every night. I watch The Office every night of my life. Most people probably don't. Every night of my life. My dad used to do that with shows, though, right? He'd fall asleep in the chair with the remote. I'm that guy now at 40. Steve Kerr, Office is on. My wife mad because she's already fell asleep. Turns the TV on. Every night that I'm home ends that way. Every night.
We have been a New Girl. Me and Sarah love the show New Girl. Nick Miller is my spirit animal. Absolutely love it. They moved it off Netflix and it's on Hulu or something. We don't have that, and I am not going to spend $10 on it. But have I looked on Amazon for the DVD set? 100%. I'm trying to get me some New Girl with my life. Yeah, that's our thing. And now that I'm 30, as of this summer, I now wake up on the couch with the remote in my hand as Razorbacks are starting their final possession, down by 7, and they're just going to go get 12 penalties on the final drive and lose last night. That's what I wake up to. So that's how I woke up last night. Had to get mad, tweet something, and go back to bed. Actually in actual. So I guess I'm one of the old heads now.
Dude, I tried to stay up for the Colorado game, Colorado State, and I made it to halftime, and then I was out. Like, Tennessee had gotten all my energy screaming at the TV while my voice sucks today. I've never been I'm a Vols fan, so I've been that upset. I shouldn't have been that upset. But last night was just a combination of so many things, and the hype coming into this year. And I was a little, and I know you're a gigantic sports fan. I've been I think Tennessee's been suspect in the first 2 games. I've watched every minute of both. Felt like they were suspect. I felt like all this like Joe Milton for Heisman talk was kind of crazy.
He's not Hendon Hooker. He is not Hendon Hooker.
No, and anybody that watched Joe in his previous life at Michigan or Joe in his previous life at Tennessee before he lost his job knows exactly who Joe Milton is, or at least other than that Orange Bowl performance, like who he is. And so I've been waiting for it. And, and I can't completely pin that loss on him last night at all, because he actually had some great throws, some different things. But it's just a different team this year, man. Hendon, that leadership and all that is so important. But here I go down a college football rabbit hole with people in the comments going, "Go Gators, go Gators, go Gators," over and over.
Bobby Lane just signed on to watch right now, boy.
Yeah, no doubt about it, dude. So something I've got in my notes here. I watched you on FS1 yesterday. We're recording this here on a Sunday for the Monday podcast. Killed it on FS1 with the opens. Every final event in the opens per division gets the FS1 treatment, which is awesome for a lot of guys that have never, had Chase Henley on camera, who's a local guy, never been on camera. His family's following. It was such a cool story watching that go down. But a lot of the opens anglers they're not known in the bass fishing world. So man, to get on FS1, very cool. But kind of talking about the opens, you and I think last year was around this similar time, and then I did a Bassmaster podcast with you after that opens field, that roster was set, who was coming to the elites. Now we've done the EQs. It's starting to become crystal clear on a few that I think we're definitely gonna have. We got 2 events to go. Who are you kind of like, who's got your interest right now? What storyline in that EQ for fans listening, watching, do they need to be paying attention to going into those final 2 opens?
Yeah, I think that let me pull up the AOI of it real quick. Just starting off, I would love for it to be, and hopefully the talks are progressed, that we do more than just the final 3. The hope was 5 this year. But we do so many things. I mean, I've been saltwater Ron half the year. I've been forward facing denier Ron on the elites, or whatever you want to call me. And so we've been doing a lot of different things right now. This whole weekend we were doing live shows, 2 different live shows. We were doing opens live, and the other half of our studio here was doing plane races. So we do the Reno air races where they race planes through the desert. We've done that for like 30 years.
Never knew that.
Sports. So all the plane races out in Reno, Nevada that happen, this is like their big one. It's 4 days long, like an elite event. They've been doing that since Thursday. And I just happened to not be on that, but Tommy was glued in and doing his thing. So that's why he's not a part of the opens or maybe the college bracket. Like, hey, Tommy, I'll bring in a guest. We have Mark Menendez. You go do your thing. Whatever. Don't feel obliged. You need some days off too. Looking at it though, the 10 that we're fishing yesterday, I said this every time we have plans to turn on the cameras for FS1, magic happens. Did you see the top 10 we had yesterday?
It was good.
You had the top 3 in our opens EQ Angler of the Year race with JT Tompkins, John and Trey McKinney. You had 4 former top-level pros in Bobby Lane, Ishman Rowe, Greg Bohannon, and Jason Lambert. So that's 7 of our team. You had Chase Henley, local for Kingston, fishing the only open he's ever done. He made the top 10. So there's 8. And then we had Wesley Gore, for college angler, fish with Zeke Gossett in high school and whatnot, just a stud. Mm-hmm. And he is in the top 10 now. After this, and he's in the top 10 in the points race. In the EQ deal and has a shot to make it with 2 events left. And then our winner, Tyler Williams, 21 years old from Maine. So our 3 winners, our first, second, and third were 21, 21, and 18. If that doesn't tell you half of our field is a local pro / top level old school pro, and half of them were really young guys, and we're all within just a few pounds of each other on the final day. Anyone catch a 5-pounder yesterday had a shot to win, which is why I love the fall, which is why I love the opens, and I love the new gen versus the old gen. So absolutely fun covering that yesterday. But looking at it, so if you look at the opens EQ points race, the standings, they don't update every single day on the opens, points race standing.
After the event.
But if you look at Bass Track, there's a tab above the live well weights that says AOY, and you can click it. And as they update fish catches throughout the day, you'll see the AOY change. So if you want to see what it looked like after day one, wake up at takeoff, click Bass Track, click AOY, and you'll see what it is after day one before anyone catches fish. So I don't know why it doesn't update in the standings like the elites do, but it just does after each event. So JT Tompkins, John Garrett, that's about 23 points between the two of them. Another 30 points to Trey Kinney. And then we go to Ken Kimura, not fishing to try to make the elites. He's already on the elites. He just fishes every event when he's in America, absolutely crushing. He's 4th in points. Still, honestly, like 60 points from the lead. He can still win AOY and win 10 grand for doing that. Robert G, he's a little Knoxville volunteer over there from the college series. He's 4th in qualification, 5th in the standings. Brett Cannon, Keith Tuma, Wesley Gore, Jacob Bigelow, and Kyle Austin. That's your top 10. There's about a 21-point gap from 10th to 11th where Logan Park sits. And then Kyle Patrick in 12th and Bobby Lane tied for 12th. So
he's creeping up there.
Hey, I said with Kyle Dessy in the Bassmaster podcast, a little plug right there. Those also come out sometime, I don't know, during the weeks, who knows, whenever we can find time from our actual jobs.
Shout out Kyle Jesse. We'll give Kyle
I got Kyle. I love my boy Kyle. I'm trying to teach him all the good things about me and trying to make him not learn the bad things about me so that he can be the best.
Any bad things about you, Ron?
Just, you know how it is. When you speak a lot, sometimes you say mean things or wrong things. So I try to get him to mind his P's and Q's because he is, in my opinion, one that could be very influential, impactful in our sport as the younger generation. He's only like 4 years younger than me, but younger than me carrying the torch. Kyle's the absolute man. I said going into the last 3 that if you were in the top 25, you still had a legitimate shot. That was about 75 points, maybe 8 points out. So 3 events, 80 points, 200 boat field. The odds you'd have to catch them pretty good, but the chance to do that was still there. We saw Tyler Williams go from 29th to 17th, and his points, he is 60 on the dot behind. So Bobby Lane was 60 points out in 21st, cut it to 30. He's only 30 points out. Tyler Williams was 29th. He has now cut it to 60 points back. So 2 events, you're going to have to make a top 10 if you're probably 60 points back. But I'd say anyone in the top 20, top 20, you're going to have a real good shot to be able to do it, which includes Jamie Spin-Milliken, Joey Nania, Tyler, Upshaw, Sam George, Matt Henry, and the other guys I mentioned. So I told Kyle this in the podcast as well. I would be cool with taking 1 through 10 for the Elite Series as rookies. I'd be cool with 11 through 20, 21 through 30, 31 through 40. It's hard to find a name. I don't know, but it's hard to find a name that's not already been stated in a top 10 or a former pro or whatever it is, a longtime opens guy. It feels absolutely stacked. So Ben Milliken posted it this morning. He said, got to win to stay alive. So him in 19th, he thinks I have to win the Ozarks to stay alive. That's the urgency that these guys not in. You don't want to have to put all your chips in the Harris chain basket. You want to be within 20 points. Give me 20-point shots. So I'd say that the top 20 are still in it. With that being said, Casey Scanlon, 26th. We're going to his home lake at the Ozarks.
Yes.
If Casey jumps into the top 17 or 16. Let's just say he gains 10 places in the standings. I'd look for him at the Harris chain to maybe sneak in there in the last spot. You just want the opportunity for chaos to happen, and be within the realm of it up in you positively. Some guys really killed themselves. Jack Dice only bringing 1 fish in on day 2 at Watts Bar. That's a killer. He drops to 30th. A couple other guys. Clark Ream needed a big day 2, didn't get it. 34th. Really good seasons with a 200+ boat field, especially 180 invested in the EQs. Like phenomenal season, but you're going to come short of the top 9, the first 9 non-elites to qualify. Sammy, a lot of pressure on Sammy. I really have high expectations of him, and he has been the survivalist. If he does good 1, he turns it around big time day 2. but he's actually gotten off to a good start in a couple events, which is very helpful for him. So looking at Sammy, and you may not know, people may not know Matt Henry. I know you probably do because of Justin Kimmel.
Yeah, he's an animal.
Oddly slipped up at Watts Bar. I'd expect Matt to do well at Ozarks, and I believe Matt has fished Harris Chain with the team championship with Justin before. So in this time of the year, so Georgia guy, but not a local to Florida. I would expect if he gets out of Ozarks with a good one, and when I say good one, at least a check, top 40.
Yeah, it's gotta be a check.
Yeah. Some guys need 2 top 10. Some guys need a top 10 and a top 40. Some guys, if you get a top 10, you can get a 60th and be okay. So it'll be interesting to watch. But day one, every single day we go along, I said there's 4 guaranteed days left of competition. Day 1 and day 2 of each event. Ooh, I don't know if there's more pressure because the ability to be 120th compared to the elites, where the ability to be 100th is the farthest you can go. You can go be 120th, and you're like, I'm right in the barely below mid pack. Holy crap, I'm so far behind now.
Yeah, man. You're talking about Sammy George feeling the pressure. I actually don't think that Sammy feels it. He is so
no. I'm putting pressure on him, but he is veteran now.
Yeah, he just, if he makes it, he's at the point, I think, in life, he's like, he's been so close so many times. He's like, look, if I make it, I make it. If I don't, I don't. He wants to make it. Obviously, he works as hard as anybody I know at trying to make it, but he's like, man, it is what it is. He had a great first day at Watts Bar and a bad second day. And like you said, normally Sammy sucks on day 1 and then comes back on day 2.
I say suck. I said has worked.
Said suck because I don't fish those anymore. So I can armchair quarterback Sammy sucking, even though he's a fantastic human being and fisherman. I have a hard time thinking that Bobby Lane won't get it done, but man, I know it's easier said than done. He's had kind of a rough year, but now he's sitting right outside of it. Harris Chain is somewhere he's got a mountain of experience and at all different times of the year. And I got to think Lake of the Ozarks is going to set up for him too this week. I think we're going to see a similar tournament to Watts Bar, and it'll be some old school fishing going on, right? Like we saw a lot of jig fishing and things like that. I think you'll see some of that at Ozarks this week. Probably going to be some forward facing going on too, though, right? Like, I mean, just obviously there's a ton of brush in the lake. You mentioned a guy like Milliken. I think Milliken's got a pretty good amount of experience on Lake of the Ozarks. I think it was the only one when he grew up in Nebraska that's kind of close, really, for a major tournament lake. I think he does have some experience there. So I would not be shocked to see him have a good one.
I could see a big bait really playing too at times.
You
see, you have a school of 5-pounders come from underneath the dock just to look at a little joint deal, whatever. But yeah, I mean, one thing that I think helps Bobby Lane, and he's been the talk of the Open since the schedule was announced and the field was announced, because he was the Red Crest winner, whatever stake you want to put into that, but won at the top level with a lot of really good anglers in that tournament. And obviously got history in the Elite Series of being a winner and being a really good angler. More so, not a diss, but if you said blind test, there's one Lane brother that's going to win a classic, who would it be? I would have assumed it would be Bobby, because Bobby's always been so just a closer on certain things. But here he is. That's the one on his bucket list still left. I think one thing that helps Ish, Bobby, Greg Bohannon, Jason Lambert, some of these guys, is when you fish in the fall, half of the field is already eliminated from having a good tournament just based on fall fishing. The other half doesn't, half of them are eliminated. 25% don't know how to practice, if I'm allowed to say that. And they may have had a decent practice, but those no longer there because they've set the hook on that fish and affected the fish's ability to bite again. Whereas somebody like Bobby Lane goes and gets a bite, maybe sets the hook, maybe shakes it off, knows how to practice for a tough grinder. And when you look at it, you got the pros, Bohannon, Lambert. You take their talent into consideration as well, but their ability to fish tough tournaments. It's not just like pros only fish heavy tournaments. You see it on the elites, but that's not. Do they shine when it's hard to get a bite? Pros are going to be better. That's just the way it is. But Bohannon, Lambert, Monroe, Lane, Dale Hightower, Jason Abram, These are guys who have fished at the top level in the top 20 or 30. Rob Dye, Kurt Mitchell. You've got Upshaw, Kyle
20?
Monty. Say it again.
Kurt Mitchell's in the top 20 now?
This was of Watts Bar in the standings. I think he's like 23rd or something, 21st in points. He's 21st. He's right there. He's right there. Kurt, or what's his real name, or what's the name on his side of his boat? It's not Kurt.
Randy.
It's something. Randy Mitchell. I'm like, who is Randy Mitchell? Oh, it's Kurt. But yeah, he's another one I'll keep an eye on. Those are all the guys I mentioned outside, but I've always been impressed with John Garrett. Absolutely. I told Mark Menendez this because Mark's been like a grandfather to him. Sorry, Mark, for aging you there, but like, just a very good mentor to John. John is an old soul in a young man's body. College fishing, the way he likes to throw a worm, he's not just a sonar guy. He's an old school Tennessee River guy, but he's not afraid of the new stuff. He'll go throw a crankbait and throw a swim bait if he needs to, but been super impressed with him. I'll say this. I dropped this on Bass Live the other day. I will hold out to the end of the year, but I think he's pretty safe for making the elites, barring anything absolutely crazy and just, heartbreaking. John said, so we had the elite at Okeechobee, and I was promoting the field for the open and things like that. And I think it might have been Seminole as well. They were starting practice for Eufaula during the Seminole event. So I was at the Screen of Knowledge talking about the opens field, the format. Here's the lakes, blah, blah, blah. Here's some names to consider. And I put John in there because he's a former college classic bracket winner. He's been to the Bassmaster Classic. He's a college representative. And he said, great Screen of Knowledge about the opens, but next time you do one, let them know there's only actually 8 spots available because I am going to win AOY. And I said, oh, buddy, when you do that, I've got the journalist writer in me. I said, he smokes. He said, there's only 8 spots available because I'm going to win AOY. And I think John's fed up of missing it close, just like Sam George is. And I think that it takes a little, it takes a little bit of a mind shift practicing fish in the opens. Like it's a different, so you can fish the opens for 3 years and not really know how to fish the open. You're just fishing a tournament called the opens. I think John knows how to fish the opens, and I think he's showing that this year with his worst finish was a 60th, and he played it safe at the St. Lawrence. Like he previewed bar with us. And for the record, Sam, Jack Dice, and John Garrett have all previewed an event for us and have all gotten a top. Where did John get yesterday? I think John got 5th. They have all gotten a top 10, but previously Sam got 4th, Jack got 4th, and he got 5th. So we've got 2 4ths and a 5th for the young guys previewing the events for us and then following it up. So John's one that I care a lot about. Not like in a biased way, but like in a proud as heck of him.
For sure.
You never know how guys will do from college to the opens to the elites. And I didn't really have Robert G, no disrespect, on my radar as like when this guy graduates college from University of Tennessee, he's going to be a factor on the opens and the elites. Same thing. I didn't say that about Wesley Gore. I knew Wesley just because I pay attention to tournament results. And he's always on the first 20 when you scroll, you see him. Yeah. But it wasn't somebody who's like Justin Atkins or Jake Whitaker or Drew Cook or Patrick Walter. Those are the guys I'm like, I fished against them. They're going to make it. I didn't say that about Robert, and I don't know if it's because I didn't cover the college series religiously at the end of his time. I handed that over to Kyle Jesse. But Robert has really impressed me. He's been in the top 10 all year. He's 5th and 4th. He's 5th in the standings, 4th in qualification, and so that's huge. And I said this on the podcast with Pat Renwick the other day when they did the opens thing. Ben Milliken, Jamie Bruce, Brad Leitner are all in there. And I said, Ben, a lot of people after we did our podcast together, after your winning ways at Toledo, Ben, they said that I hated you or that I was gritting my teeth doing the podcast with you. And I was like, no one makes me do the podcast. Like I was the one who had the idea to interview. So I don't hate you. I don't know where that came from, but I am more so impressed that as a YouTuber that he has shown he's a fisherman as well. you can always, there are guys who, like, on their taxes, H&R Block is filing your taxes. They say, what do you do for a living? Some guys who fish and put videos on YouTube, they say, I'm a fisherman, but you're not. You're actually a videographer, but you video fishing. And then there are guys who are pro fishermen who just happen to put content on YouTube. I've been more impressed at Ben, the ability to go into that other realm. I am a professional fisherman that makes YouTube videos, not a YouTuber who makes fishing videos. There's a difference there. And I think Ben has proved to me, not that he needed to, but I've been very impressed that, he comes armed for bear. And I know the fall is tough for anybody, so I'm not holding it against him that he, struggled at Watts Bar or whatever, but I've been impressed by a couple guys for sure.
I heard he hit a river buoy there on his way to the ramp the first day in the dark, that he hit a buoy in his, what, somebody told me that. Somebody texted me that. I forget who. Somebody that fished the tournament. One of my buddies. I don't know.
Oh, my God.
That probably cost him the first day because he came back and looked like he had a decent second day after a bad first day. But I think
the only guy I think the only guy I know to ever hit a Tennessee River buoy was Joe Sancho at Chickamauga in an elite event, and then Mike Corbishley at Chickamauga as well.
I hit one in my express, the first express that I got. The boys and I were smallmouth fishing in March, and the floodgates were open, and the CFS was like 250,000. Like, dude, it was ripping, like as much as I'd ever seen. And we were drifting this rock row, fishing these little eddies. And my dad, I'm blaming my dad for this. So my dad called, and my phone was down by the console, and I went to get it, and all of a sudden, Hudson, my 15-year-old, says, "Dad." And I said, "What?" And I'm on the phone with my dad, and he goes, "I think we're fixing to hit." And all of a sudden you hear, bam! And we drifted into it. The boat goes up on, dude, this is like second time I take the express out. It literally bobs on top of it like this. And I'm like, oh my God. And dude, we're right off the edge of the channel. I mean, but the current had caught me, and I didn't realize, and dude, it happened fast. And, anyways, we finally got off of
Jared Miller happened.
Exactly. Similar. Yeah, very similar. A little bit further from the dam than Jared was. But anyways, if it had been a fiberglass boat, though, we'll say it would have completely just self-combusted, and it really didn't do a lot to the Express. So I was impressed that day to get in a shameless sponsor plug there. But yeah, I heard he ran into one.
Man, that stinks.
I saw a guy do that in an FLW Tour event on Pickwick. We were all running down below 7 Mile Island, headed down towards like Coger. We were like 8 wide. It was the event Buddy Gross won. And this guy literally is trying to pass everybody, and he clipped one. And when I got to my starting spot, he was trying to start there as well. And I didn't realize this at the time when we were running down the lake. And he had a perfect shape from that buoy right out of the rub rail and the side of the fiberglass, perfect little horseshoe shape from that. And there was just shards of fiberglass, and he fished all day long. He did not check up.
He got to rewire his electronics without a snake either. You could just reach your hand right in there and get all the wires in your gun.
He could have got anything he wanted to out of the hole in the side of that thing.
Hey, you troll over to him. Hey, can I get that Zoom chunk right there on the? I can see it in your locker.
That one a little further up. You got to go further.
Yeah, that packed up.
Yeah, man, I think that's something I really want to pick your brain on that. Obviously, JT Tompkins and Trey McKinney, young guys that are just having fantastic years. But I look at a guy like John and JT as well. JT's been putting in work in the opens for the last few years now. But I look at those guys as not only are they going to be rookies, but it's almost like a little like Joey Fuentes this year. He was ready. Right? Like, he had big tournament experience. He rolls through the opens. He qualifies. He's ready. Obviously, wins 2 blue trophies, top 10 in the AOY race, which is not easy to do. But I think a guy like John Garrett, he's ready. Like, he can come to the elites and compete regardless of the names on that list. Like, I think John's a guy that can absolutely compete. I think JT's another guy. Like, JT's a hard worker, very, very, very good at breaking down lakes. Obviously, and I think that JT's one that can have success in the elites as well, and anybody on that list, not to leave anybody out, but I really point to those guys that have fished that gauntlet of the opens for so many years. They do know how to practice. They do know how to approach an event and certainly get it done. Trey McKinney's kind of that wild card for me because he's so young. Obviously doesn't let the pressure get to him at all. Obviously puts fish in the boat. But it's one of those things, man, I can't imagine being that age, making the elites and rolling up, and you're like, oh, gosh, there's Gerald Swindle. Oh, there's Larry Nixon. Oh, man, I can't imagine what that would feel like. But I've known Trey since he was in high school, and he's a pretty cool cat. Like, I don't know that it would bother him like
last year.
Yeah, which was last year. Maybe I should say middle school, because I did think I met Trey when he's like 13 or 14 through TH Marine. We've got some mutual friends, and he's been after it for a while to be young, but he's competed for a while now, though, man. He's just obsessed with it.
And it makes you think, Gerald Swindle, I love G, but I say I love you because I can take it with a grain of salt. He will align up with my beliefs when he says something, and the next video will not line up with my beliefs. And so it's like, I love Gerald. He is my, him and Ike are the two that I aspired to. They were the ones that I wanted to be like. They made fishing fun. Those were my heroes. And so I'm going to get, closer look into who Gerald Swindle is. I understand that some things he's going to say aren't going to be funny to me, but the coming up on stage are going to be hilarious, or he's going to talk about the hard things to talk about at times. And also I get the privilege of knowing his bias. I know his thoughts on a topic before he says something about the topic most of the time. So I understand if there's no knee jerk from me about it. But the other day he said a video about he saw on TikTok, which G spends more time on TikTok than I probably than anything else other than the girls TikTok dancing. But he said that he saw a bunch of hate coming towards kids these days and the daddy's money and all these things. And he did a good video about that. And I said I commented and I said I'm grateful for my dad, because the time spent between a father and a son, or a father-like figure and a boy in the boat, teaching them to fish, that you can't pay for desire. You can pay for a boat and a truck. You can't pay for desire. And so seeing guys like John, JT, Trey, perfect examples. Patrick Walters, same dang example for the heat that Patrick got for his parents always being at the tournaments. I would have gotten because my parents would be at every elite. My parents are at every elite event hardly, and I'm not even there anymore. They just show up because they like it. They're at the Harris Chain. That'll probably be a camera boat driver down there in October for the Open. They love it. They would be there at the elites. Shout out to Ron. He's still got the hair flowing and everything.
Yes, the stash, dude. Ron is a legend, dude.
He is the reason I'm in this sport, and that's why I commented that. I said, guys like Trey, guys like JT, guys like John, they are like me. They have the support of family behind them. JT's dad, Timmy, and JT's cousin Jacob, they fish the Opens with him. They travel. They've done this.
Yes.
And Timmy has yielded to JT this year because Timmy had a couple of bad events and said, you know what? Instead of us splitting info, or instead of me being in the way, I'm going to for next year. You go win AOY and go make the elites, boy. And JT has done that, but he's got absolute something you can't create, which is a great family dynamic. He has that support. John has that as well. Old Johnny Garrett, his granddad, just the salt of the earth, helped me when I had, lost trim fluid in my boat. I couldn't trim my boat up, and just pulled it in Union City Marine and knocked it out in 5 minutes for me so I could go cover a tournament, not even fish a tournament, cover a tournament. So great people. Same thing goes for Trey. The people in the family with Trevor being a cousin, just you have to have that support. So when I see that, I don't think daddy's money or these young kids are ruining the sport. I'm like, I hope to be the father to Marlo that they have, or that my dad is to me, that she needs. If she wants to be a professional softball player, how do I, in working really hard, not make it easier for her, but make it more accessible to her? Am I going to pay for the travel ball stuff? Probably. But if I worked hard enough and I want my kid to succeed, I will do that, So it's a different dynamic. And so I applaud those family cores that do that. You'll see the Finley Cooks support Drew, all those different people. There's so many more. Whitaker family go. Like, this generation of young anglers, they don't need their parents to be successful, but because they have their parents nearby, they become successful. Having that someone, I don't know, Luke, I'm not getting on the young and restless level, but have you looked up your love languages? You know, the love languages. That's what me and Sarah have done, and working through our faith and our marriage. We have love languages, and so I know what Sarah's love language is. It's acts of service. If I need to, I love my wife, I go do the dishes so she doesn't have to. Mine is words of affirmation. So if Sarah says, I'm proud of you and you're doing great, I'll run through a brick wall every day for them. It's the same thing with these guys and their family support. If my parents show up and support me, I've got to give it my all, or I need to go home, because they've sacrificed so much for me to just have an opportunity. And whether it works out or not, they're proud of me. So it's the same thing dynamic. You know what person, that athlete, what makes them tick. And if you're a part of the support system, you do that way. Some guys probably like to be yelled at and hit over the head about what they did wrong. And some guys just need, hey, it didn't work out, regroup and do it again next week. You know, so I applaud those fan bases.
I think, first of all, the daddy's money comments typically come from very miserable people. I think, well, they do, man. And look, I think that we all, whether you have a lot of money, whether you don't have a lot of money, I think when you become a parent, your responsibility in life should change, right? Like, your focus is on that child and giving them the best life. And I'm not talking about from a materialistic standpoint, right? It's giving that child the best life, giving them advice, trying to set them on the right path, to be better than you've ever been at whatever that is. Just for me, it's like, I just want my kids to be better than I've ever been, just at it, whether it's attitude, whether, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't need, because I did the pro fishing thing for a little bit, but like, I don't have this deep seated desire for my boys to be pro anglers, right? Like, that's not something that, and they love fishing tournaments, but they don't love it on that level like I did at their age. But that's not something like living through your kids, I guess, is what I'm getting at. There are a lot of people that see the daddy's money type thing as that. But I think that the world has changed so much in the way that parents are. People are, I think that the term is helicopter parents. Now they tend to hover more now than like my folks did. And there has been,
because they were working, providing they couldn't hover, they had to be there.
Right. Yeah. But there's been such a fundamental change in parents focusing more on their kids in the last, I feel like, even 10 years than ever before in life. And that's like Gerald's video, because I saw that. That's not bad. It's not bad. If you can afford to buy a brand new whatever boat and load it out with electronics, and you go with your kid to the lake every week, that's not a bad thing, dude. If somebody has a problem with it, they're jealous that they can't do the same for themselves. They may not even have kids, but they can't afford a brand new boat, so they immediately attack that. That's not, I hate that that's the way we are as a society, because I do see that. Now, that being said, I have seen in high school fishing the very opposite of that too. Mm-hmm. And that is, daddy buys a boat, daddy pays somebody to take little Johnny fishing to win the big tournaments, and little Johnny acts like he's a rock star in bass fishing, and then little Johnny eventually washes out. I've seen several from my local area. It just doesn't. And my problem though with little Johnny and his dad in those situations was never daddy's money. It was, well, if daddy's got all this money, I don't understand why he's not with Johnny in the boat. Why didn't he? Yeah. Why didn't he take him? Right? Like, why isn't he?
And that's the premise of Gerald's video as well. Right. You can't make desire. Little Johnny goes home and doesn't look at fishing until it's Saturday and somebody tells him where to go. That's right. I said in that same comment, like, grateful for my dad. I wouldn't be in the sport without him. Weird that no one said his money when I rolled to the boat, to the ramp with my 18-foot Ranger and a 94 F250, that I was borrowing from my dad, because I can't buy a $30,000 boat in, freshman year of college. I can't do that. But I remember specifically I was a senior at the time, so I had learned some things in college fishing. And we were at Hartwell, and I had a freshman. I said, anybody, I'm going to fish this tournament by myself unless someone signs up. If you want to come, let's go. I had a freshman sign up with me. His name was Brian Buffalo. And I remember backing down the ramp, we're floating in the flotilla of college fishing boats. And he's like, dang. And I look over, like, he either saw the hottest college fishing girl ever or something caught his eye. And he said, that's a nice rig. And I said, like almost like he's my son. Like, look at me, Brian, we're going to beat 90% of these fancy rigs today. I promise you. We go and get 14th or 12th or something in the 150 boat tournament. We do that and we qualify and not advance on. And it's like, it doesn't matter what rig it is. A lot of people are defeated before it starts, but I just remember that, like, I didn't care what we were in. I put flames on the motor to make it look like I was going faster. That's how slow my boat went. Like, what are we talking about? I was taking the back channel of the back channel at Pickwick just to keep pace with the guys on the main drag doing the big circle. I'm trying to cut through here 52 miles an hour. I'm spending an hour of practice idling the back channel to make sure I don't hit anything. So I stay on that line on my phone GPS reminder. So I make it, like, that's what we did. And so I was like, I don't remember people saying daddy's money when I put flames on my 18-foot boat trying to get my 150 to go faster. Like, so there's I think that the young generation of anglers, if you want it, you can go get it. It's accessible. And boy, if you don't want it, we will know quickly if you don't want it. And I can tell those who don't want it. When fishing's not fun, if you still like fishing, you want it.
Yeah, that's right. If your dad pitches you an American Express and goes, dude, you got an unlimited budget, go fish the Opens, go fish the Toyotas, go fish MPFL, and you don't want it, it shows up. I don't care if he's paying for it or not. That's the thing. Like, the talent does bubble over regardless of how it's funded. Right. Like, I mean, that's the deal there, but there's good and bad in that, and I just think that there are so many people that do have that old school train of thought of, you got to earn it. You better earn it. And it's like, well, I mean, they're going to earn it, right? Like, whatever it is in life, even if your parents set you up, like, you're going to earn it. Unless, and I've dealt with this situation multiple times in my life, your dad's the CEO of a big company and he throws you the keys to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a little different situation too, right? Like, you didn't have to do anything. You just landed in the spot. But I bet there's a lot of intimidation and fear that comes with getting thrown the keys if you have a conscience at all about you, and most folks do. So I don't know, man.
It's like if Kevin handed his Legends exemption points that he would have towards the elites to his sons, and they get a spot in the elites when it was based off the work he did. Like, everyone in the Elite Series, 102, whether they're in the prime career, whether they are taking a Legends exemption, like whether they're a rookie. I still have yet to find someone who hasn't earned it. You still have to, you've either caught them in the past so good that you're deemed a legend, or you're currently catching them now, or you struggled this year, but you've caught them the last 3 or 4 years and your average is good enough and you still earned your spot. Like, I don't know a still guy who's like, that guy didn't earn it. Like, what are you talking about? So, no, I'm very, not saying I predicted the future, but like 6 years ago, when everyone was like, grow the sport, it went so fast. We got the field sizes so big. We had like 490,000 boats in our high school championship this year, and that was just taking the top 10% of qualifiers. That means we had 4 million boats try to fish the tournaments, to qualify. So we've grown the sport. When I was like, whoa, don't force this sport on anyone who doesn't want to be here, because you don't know, you can't sustain the sport. There's a bubble. It's a hubba bubba. We're pushing. We got 4 pieces of bubble gum and we're chewing, and the bubble gets bigger, but at a certain point it's going to pop. And so we need to make sure we keep this bubble and sustain it and protect this bubble. So now we've pushed so much in it. It's so competitive. And now, we want the payouts to go up. We want the prestige to go up, yet there's more people diluting the field side. Like, this was a problem. This was a hard to sustain sport without tons of non-endemics. And the only way we do that sometimes is to have forward-facing sonar, make stuff fun, fishing fun or things like that. And so it's cyclical. Do we want back, raise payouts, and have a dirty dozen Tritons and have everybody wearing another sponsor's jersey, that we want to get out of in the early 2000s for the elites, and you can represent your own brand on the final day. We got away from it, but of course there comes the penalties, less endemic money, because why would they pay the same amount to have less exposure than they were getting when everyone was running their brand? And then we go for a decade of that, or 15 years of that, and then this thing is formed where another tournament series, and you fish out of not your boat or your stuff or your jersey, and it's not perfect either. So we're trying to figure out perfection with moving goalposts every couple years, and it's hard to set something in and let it live for long enough to know if it worked. It's hard for a president to induce a fiscal plan to see if it works before he's voted out, and then we're trying to undo what he just did. Like, we're doing that fishing the same way. It's the same. Oh, well, we need to cater to these guys. Well, these guys are at the end of their career. What does the new generation want? Well, the new generation is not quite spenders in the sport as much as the old guys are. So, it's hard. It's hard. And it makes me sad, because I love this sport. But I'm starting to learn this is the end of my 10th year with Bass. And I'm like, my phone died, and I'm not going to plug it back in because somebody could text me this afternoon. I don't want to be texted. Like, you're just like, freak, man. I hate that it's kind of this point, but it's like, dude, yeah, tough.
I get it, dude. And again, we started this with, you're never going to make everybody happy, and that's physically impossible. But I do think that all the organizations are looking at ways to make all of this better, and hopefully keep this train moving down the road. Ronnie Moore, you're the man. I appreciate you giving some time on your Sunday afternoon. I know you got, I don't know, Arizona Cardinals to watch. One of these teams.
No, I don't need to watch them at all. Not right now. Unless I got a fantasy player on my team. Like, I'm not leaving them, but let's just say in past years, they weren't on my local, channels to be able to easily watch, but I would find ways to watch. I may not be trying as hard to find ways to watch them at 3 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon.
Unfortunately,
that's why I'm doing a podcast with Luke Duncan and not watching. My fantasy over here, receiving touchdown by Tyler Lockett. I'll take it, even though he's on a rival team. Like, I got a different goalpost now. I'm getting fantasy.
I'm with it. Unfortunately, I can't escape the Titans. Living in Middle Tennessee, it's on constantly. So I've been a Titans fan since they moved here, and it's a very hard thing to be a fan of at times.
It's not easy. The one thing that I do have going for me is I'm a Denver Nuggets fan, and they're the first ever sports team to win the title while I was a fan of them this past spring. So
I remember.
They left on another year or two because Kroenke got himself a big win. I texted Alton Jr. that, because Alton's my really, really good buddy.
He needed a win.
He said, I sent him a photo of Jokic holding the trophy, and Kroenke's right behind him. And I texted him the photo. I said, "It's Kroenke," and he said, "MLF just won the NBA championship." I said, "Yes, they did. Yeah, they did. I guess so.
I want to know if Stan Kroenke even knows that MLF exists. I want to know who put his money in it, and I just want to ask somebody that question. If, like, he actually knows that he does something in the professional bass fishing world, because that guy, and I'm not hating on MLF by saying that guy is involved in a lot of gigantic things, the grand scheme of sporting events. And I just wonder if he's like, oh yeah, this little blip down here on the tiny radar professional sports. Yeah, I own that too. I wonder if he sits around a table with all of his other billionaire buddies. He's like, did you catch the MLF event this weekend? I'm gonna bet, but maybe he does. But I'm looking at Kroenke. If you're watching Ronnie Moore and I right now,
oh gosh,
bring some of that money to Major League Fishing and to Bassman, the whole thing. Buy it all, baby. Let's go. Put some of them billions in the bass fishing world. Calling him out.
I think I sent because he owns the Rams, he owns the
Chargers,
the Avalanche. For hockey, he's got the Rockies, I believe. But yeah, he's got all kinds of stuff. And so I saw something the other day. He's actually owns the 5th most land for an individual in the United States or something. So he owns a bunch of land as well. Maybe we can make some private lakes.
Yeah, dude.
It's technically out west. We'll be able to suffice 2 needs. get a West Coast schedule and some good fishing. But I joke and I kid that this wasn't an anti-anything. It was just a joke. At this point, I think a switch flipped. My body doesn't ache, but as soon as I turn 30, I don't give a crap about the drama of forward-facing sonar, of the leagues against each other. Like, trying to provide for my daughter and my wife, and we can just enjoy our time. You know, I just need to be the best dad possible, the best man of God possible, and eliminate the negative people out of my life if I need to. So weird. I can't wait to see what happens when I hit 40. Maybe my body will start to hurt then.
Well, I think, buddy, mine started hurting at 30 though. So I think, just everything settles in, right? Like, I just think, we're so far into this thing, things just settle in. Industry settling down, I think, for the most part, and here we are. This is where we're at, right? And I think we've got to figure out the forward-facing deal from a fan watching perspective. I don't think we've got to ban it. I don't think that's going to happen anyways. But I think everybody's working on it, and we're all just doing the best we can, Ron. We're all just doing the best we can.
I just don't think that the fans who don't like forward-facing sonar, or the anglers that don't like it, putting a little bit of screen or graph on the screen is going to make them happy. I think it's going to make the other people who are in it. It's just more so like, oh, you don't like this? Well, I'm going to show you more of this in a different way. I don't think that they're going to like, but I think that it will be a great teaching moment. There's a lot behind it. Try not to bankrupt the whole company just a screen on a screen and a video on a video. But so yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I love the sport. I have a different kind of cherish for this sport. But at the end of the day, it's not my identity. And I hope and pray it's not the anglers' identities. I hope that they are not finding value just being an Elite Series pro. There's a lot of other you can do that, but you don't always have to be that. And so same thing here. You can be a commentator and not, you can do commentary and not be a commentator all the time. Like, you find your value and your worth elsewhere. And so, would I go fishing on a weekend for 5 hours and try to bang my head against the wall to catch one, or do I be home with my daughter? I'm going to be home with my daughter.
Love it. I love it. Ronnie Moore, I appreciate you, buddy. Always a pleasure. And we're going to do one of these in person. I need to come do one of these at the Bassmaster studio or something. That'd be fun.
I know. Well, you'd be weird if you were in my spare bedroom here in this one, but we can do one. Actually, we'll set it up in the studio. But that would be can I plug this? Can I plug the Opens live?
Plug it, buddy.
So Sunday, the 24th, we've got, because they're back to back for the first time this year, the Opens will be shifted a day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So the final day, we'll have Greg Hackney in studio for the Ozarks commentating with me and Such. We had Mark Menendez last week, our last event. And then we'll have the college bracket. So we kind of got a lot of bass fishing again this fall. Yesterday was Watts Bar, or Saturday was Watts Bar. This Sunday is Ozarks. We'll have the college bracket Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the following week, and then we'll go to the Opens and then Redfish. So we still are doing live. I think for the next 5 weeks we do live for a couple days, and but we are down to the single digit days. But yeah, we'll be able to rest when we have November and December. And also, your group of fans will list with, I hear your complaints online. You love live, but you don't like watching live as a replay. The 14 Bassmaster shows that we put on Fox Sports 1 in January and February before the season starts, they've normally been just based around the winter. We have gone back and made it like the old 45-minute shows where we take you through the tournament. We show you probably 6 to 8 anglers. I'm helping edit and format and put those shows with a couple of the guys in the studio. So we are going back to that just for those Q1 shows. And live, obviously, the more live we can have on FS1, the better for our sport. So they've been great to work with, but we will have a little bit of flair from the old school.
I like it.
Of old. So we're working on it. We're doing our best, man. We're doing our best. And I'm sleeping a couple hours a night.
That's my life.
I got to go play video games and some, Gen Millennial or whatever I am. So
Ronnie Moore, everybody, Ronnie just doing the best he can, just like we all are. Thank y'all. All right, that's all she wrote with Ronnie Moore. I'd like to apologize for the jumping around and the jittery service. I'm blaming Ron in Arkansas. He says his Wi-Fi stinks. No, maybe that's the case. Maybe it was mine. Trying some new things. Got some new services that I'm trying to use to do the podcast and keep trying to expand, man. Do things a little differently than I always have. Same show. Just look and sound a little different is what I'm trying. And, there's going to be bugs. So this was the first week of it. I appreciate Ron being the guinea pig and coming on and always being as honest as he is, man. I really enjoyed the conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Be sure to subscribe to the Luke Duncan's Travel and Circus YouTube channel if you have not, if you enjoy watching the show. And if not, you know what? Leave a review on iTunes, Spotify. I don't know if you can do that, but thank y'all. No matter how you're listening or watching, I appreciate each and every lowlifer each and every week, man. We'll take y'all out with some Biloxi Blues. Be sure to hug your mama. We're going to have a fun show this coming week, I believe, as well. We got maybe an in-studio guest, fingers crossed. We'll take y'all out with Biloxi. Y'all have a good week, and I'll see y'all next time.
I never could
See ya.
make it last. Spanish moss and Civil War ghosts, well, I'm gonna leave them in the past. Any direction, Lord, I'll be fine. It don't matter east or west. North, south, wherever the wind blows, I'm leaving those burdens at rest. This highway, it does not know my name, and I don't care, no, I don't care. Heading my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare. Just a white line gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas to